From the misty Pacific coast to the rugged Cascade Mountains and beyond to the high desert in the east. Whether you chase black-tailed or mule deer, Roosevelts or Rockies, if you fish for bass or salmon, hunt cougars, bears, turkeys, or ducks, we want to talk about the most overlooked section of the outdoorsman community, true Pacific Northwest hunters and fishermen. You have found the podcast for you. Born in the wettest woods of the lower 48, where we only talk about the endless pursuits of the far western world to inspire you in your next adventure.
There will be many tags in our lives that go unfilled, but if your first objective is to learn and grow, you can find success in every season.
And I'd stand up and like, oh my God,
Your foot fell off.
it's off. Can't find it.
And ask the big questions about what truly motivates our life in the wild.
I believe that God gave us the ability to do this.
You go from plodding along and not really living to living the full, abundant life that He has for you now.
You are listening to the Oregon First Hunting and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the show. We are glad you tuned in and hope that you learned something valuable from today's episode. We're recording here in Salem in our tiny, dingy little studio that's in the back of my office here at the church, full of junk, but I'm super glad that I'm joined here with Doug Nichols, president of the Oregon Trappers Association. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. I have a few announcements before we get going here. Make sure to like our Instagram at OFHF Podcast in order to hear updates about what we have going on. Don't miss any episodes. You can go to the link in our bio there and sign up for the newsletter if you want to get email updates about events and episodes that come out. And also, announcing this for the first time, we will soon have episodes up on YouTube, because anyone I talk to under the age of 20, as soon as I mention the show, the first thing that they ask is it on YouTube? So I'm answering the call. We're going to have these up on YouTube at Oregon First Hunting and Fishing. Just look us up there. Subscribe to see those episodes when they drop. Our next event that I want to invite you to, really excited to once again do our spring fishing trip. This is going to be on April 13th at 9 a.m. Contact us to learn more or join our Facebook group, Salem First Hunting and Fishing. Or go to Instagram, go to link in our bio. Any of those ways to find us online is where you can find more specific details about that event. I will say it is family friendly, so you can bring yourself, the wife, the kids, or the husband if you happen to be a woman listening to this, and you can come and fish and have some fun. So in this episode, we talk about trapping. We also have a couple of news updates about the search for a new ODFW director and a check-in on IP13, the potential Oregon bill. And we have a conversation with our guest, lifelong outdoorsman and president of the Oregon Trappers Association, Doug Nichol. Welcome, Doug.
Yes, thank you. It's good to be here.
I don't even remember the first time I invited you to be on the show.
It's been quite a while.
Yeah. But you are on the board here at my church, and you also happen to be the president of the Oregon Trappers Association. And, I mean, you're passionate about the outdoors, you're passionate about the Lord, you're just a perfect guest for the show.
Well, I have had a long, extinguished career outdoors, had put out a lot of fires through it all. And so, yes, enjoy trapping, enjoy hunting, fishing, a lot of different things, and also being here at the church on board involved with that.
Yeah, and you also have lots of experience that I'm excited to glean a little bit, permanently recorded for the generations to hear behind us. Not to put any pressure on you.
Well, yeah, I have survived, so to this point. And a few times it was questionable. The Lord really had to work hard to keep me here today, so I thank Him for it.
Now it is time for...
That's perfect. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, fishing or hunting?
Hunting.
Hunting or trapping?
Trapping.
So in the trapping world, would you prefer a foothold or a live trap?
I haven't used too many live traps. Most of the time you use those around homes and where you can't use
More varmint control.
Yeah, more residential, urban type stuff. So most of my experience has been with footholds, conibears, and snares.
Bow or muzzle loader for hunting?
I haven't used a muzzleloader a lot. I did deer hunt this last year with it. Now that was
Yeah, I
a
remember you
real
telling me
unique
that.
experience. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I've had more experience bow hunting. I did that for many years. Not that I was any good at it, but I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I've been about equally successful with both.
Okay.
Archery maybe is
More
I have
your
more
game.
knowledge. Yes.
All right, bear or deer?
Oh man, I love them both. Spring bear hunting is fantastic. I love being up in the mountains that time of year. But deer hunting, I've hunted mule deer and blacktail extensively
Yeah.
over the years, probably about equally. I hate the blacktail, but I love to hunt them. They're so much work,
Yeah, oh,
typically.
man.
So I'd have to split it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to choose.
You're either fighting wet blackberries and poison oak
Yeah.
or high elevation cold
Snow. Yeah,
Yep.
right.
So last icebreaker question. Eastern Oregon or Western Oregon?
Wow. I've probably spent more time in Eastern Oregon, split between the high desert and the high blue mountains. But I live in Western Oregon, so I do a lot of trapping in Western Oregon. So I just the state.
Yep. All right.
I'm a
so
state
you
guy.
can't pick one or the other.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there.
I mean, for me, I relate to that. I love to hunt in my backyard. This is my first year I'm really putting in for tags that are further from home. And I'm putting in for some tags I don't expect to draw for a long time.
Oh, well, yeah, all of them, many years.
Like I love being able to do, for example, a couple seasons ago, I did 23 day trips for blacktail.
Yeah, that's the advantage of hunting
Yeah.
around home is you can, for a few hours, you can run out and do it. You don't have to make a scheduled, prolonged, involved trip to get everything together. Yeah,
Yep.
you just jump in your truck and go.
Yep. So that's why my answer to that one would be Western Oregon.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
I also don't have enough experience in East to quite make that decision yet.
Yeah.
So let's talk about our month in the outdoors, and I'll just give you an update about what's been going on in my life. This last weekend, Doug, you might have noticed I missed church.
No, I wasn't here either. 'Cause
Okay, you missed church because you're
I
doing
was
trapping
at a fur
stuff.
sale,
Yep.
so yeah.
So somehow, this early in the season, I managed to get into some poison oak worse than I ever have. And I thought I had it bad before,
Yeah.
but they had to put me on medication.
Oh, yeah.
One of my eyes was swollen shut, and not to get into the details, but it's oozy, it's itchy,
Nasty.
swollen,
Yeah.
all over my arms. What I did is I didn't realize I got it on my hands, and we were fishing, and for the rest of the day, I was touching my face, touching
yeah.
everything, and
Oh, man.
5 days later,
Yeah.
I'm just swollen to nothing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, been there, done that. So yeah,
Yep.
no fun at all.
nope. So, but it happened in the outdoors. So that's why I share it here.
It's
But
part of the experience.
I'm real excited for turkey season coming up. And now last season was my first year that I shot a turkey, and I don't know. I think that gave me a little bit too much of a confidence boost. Here's the thing about bird hunting is you can, especially out here in the West and hunting public land, you can hunt your butt off all season long and see one buck, and that's a success, and that's the buck you kill.
Right.
But when it comes to duck hunting, if you're a bad enough shot, you could go through a whole box of shells in one hunt. Or,
Sure.
turkey hunting, I got my turkey the first year that I ever really gave it a hard effort. And
Yeah.
so,
Nice.
I'm pretty excited for turkey hunting. We'll see if the reality hits me hard when
Yeah.
I get back out there. But, I do have a handful of hunts planned, so that'll
Good.
be fun.
Good for you. Yeah.
So, Doug, tell me about your month in the outdoors. You've been doing a lot of trapping events and things like that, shows.
Yeah. This time of year is for me. Trapping starts. October, late September, October after deer season. Water trapping gets started in November. Here lately, I'm still working a lot of hours at my job, but my grandson now, who's 15, is into trapping. So
Great.
I've had him for a number of years.
That'll
brought
give you
him
a
along.
second wind.
Yeah, so I'm kind of living vicariously through him. So
Yeah.
he's out doing a bunch of damage control trapping. He's trading that for hunting rights on some private property that farmers
Cool.
need to go and get a bunch of beaver that are flooding, fields and roads. And
Yeah.
so he's been going in doing that. And my job has been to help him or put up fur.
Yeah.
So I'm out in the fur shed putting up fur for him as he's bringing in and throwing it on.
Wow.
So I think he's caught 32 beaver and
Wow.
4 otter and, muskrats and mink.
I
and
mean, to
coon
me,
and-
that sounds like a great season.
yeah, he's done very well. We just went to a fur sale in Prineville this last weekend. We got Oregon Trappers Association has kind of a sister corporation, which is the Oregon Territorial Council on Fur.
Okay.
Now, I wasn't involved in putting that name together.
All right.
We inherited that, but we do
OTC.
OTC.
Oh,
OTC.
they just call it OTC.
OTC.
Okay. All right.
And so we put on 2 fur sales, one in Prineville the first weekend in March, and then one the third weekend in March in Klamath Falls. So we got all the fur together. We took 26 beaver because we didn't have quite them all together. To Prineville, along with a few other things, and he got an $800 check for that.
Woo.
So for a
he's 15?
15-year-old kid, yeah.
Man, that's a lot of money
that's
for 15.
pretty good money,
That reminds me of when I sold my pig at the fair at auction when
yeah.
I was in 4-H about that age. And
Right.
you feel like a millionaire.
Big money.
Yeah,
So
you put that toward your first pickup.
So yeah, I've had that going on, getting ready for that. But then Oregon Trapper Association also had a booth at the Willamette Sportsman Show, and along with
we
you,
saw you
which
there.
we saw, yeah. And so that was really good to talk to people, be in the public eye. It's a great environment for trappers because most of those guys are outdoorsmen, but it's still amazing how many people that you'll get walk up and go, "Oh, trapping's legal in Oregon? You can still do that?" And my response always is, "Well, today we can." I'm not
Yeah.
sure about tomorrow because we're always in fights with the legislature and the Fish and Wildlife, and
Yeah.
things coming down all the time. Just that's an ongoing thing anymore in the trapping industry is to be ahead of the game on all the anti initiatives coming up.
Well, here's our look at the news. Last episode, we talked about the extremely rushed process that was proposed to hire a new ODFW director. And we do have an update on that. This is a quote from Mary, what's her
Walls.
Mary Walls, the current chairman. I just learned from Doug, soon to be retiring from that position as well. She said, hearing people is more important than speed. And that does kind of ring true when we had Nathan Endicott on last episode and we talked about this, and we were a little shocked because it was March, they were going to have the candidates. April 1, they were going to have the guy in the position, and it just really seemed impossibly fast. Now they're backtracking on that and slowing it down. But at the same time, are we afraid that this is going to give anti-hunting interests a foothold to meddle in this election, to use the common terminology these days?
Well, I think that they had maybe somebody in mind, even though they opened it up to public input. They had 11 candidates that they were looking at.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, apparently that hasn't worked out. So now they're having to step back and again open it up to new people. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Oregon's pretty much a hotbed over here on the left coast.
Yep.
And whoever steps into that position's gonna bite off a pretty big chunk of everything that's going on with the wolves and the sea lions and the
sea
everything.
lions,
There's
man,
no end in Oregon to what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the big fear we have too that we brought up last episode is we don't want to follow in Washington's footsteps to where the Game Commission begins managing for the interest of non-hunters, which I've already seen a lot of opinion pieces coming out throughout this election from anti-hunting, quote, conservation groups, even though hunting is the original form of conservation,
Right.
And they're that this is an opportunity for the department to begin managing with the interest of non-hunters rather than hunters. And that's really scary to hear because that's what we want to avoid. And so, Doug, you told me that we're losing 3 positions on the commission and the director.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is up to. And to go back that, yes, all these years, Fish and Wildlife has been managed under science-based management.
Yeah.
Years of documented studies that have ongoingly protected and enhanced wildlife. And now, yes, the antis are wanting to change that. They don't like that because we have too much information showing what is actually necessary in protecting our wildlife.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a big new green push.
Yeah, and we really need to be paying attention to that. And I'm not the person who has all the answers to know what to do or what to say or where to give your money or where to get involved. But just to bring awareness to that, the ODFW director search has slowed down, and we're losing a few of the commission members. So keep an eye on that. We'll keep updating as things happen. The other piece of the news we wanted to look at here in Oregon, IP13, which switched to IP3 in 2022, is now going to be revised as IP28 for the 2026 election. So that means that if you type in IP28 right now, it's a tax reform bill. But in 2026, IP28 will be the new rendition of IP3. So this is the ban that everyone's been talking about, the bill to ban all hunting, fishing, trapping, ranching, pest control, animal husbandry, and even animal research in Oregon. I honestly feel as though the people in charge of this don't believe it could happen. It could pass, that they don't expect it to, but it really seems like a great way for them to keep making more and more money. And the more publicized it gets and the more people talk about it, then anyone from around the country can send in. They just got 2 additional $50,000 donations recently. And, it's just money that they can then pour into smaller anti-hunting things in order to kind of, how do you eat an elephant, right?
Yeah, you want to always follow the money and track that back, because it is, most all these anti-groups are based on money, and millions of dollars do they get sent into their coffers with a crying picture of a little animal that's in the mud and cold and a dog, that's starving. So IP3 or whatever now it is morphed into, yes, there's no part of American lifestyle, Oregon lifestyle, that it wouldn't affect. So it's a horrible thing, a bill, but at the same time, you're right. They probably don't expect the whole thing to pass. Yeah. But what they'll come back with is a part of it. Yeah. They'll peel it apart like an onion and feed it to us a little bit at a time. And eventually 10, 20 years from now, who knows? Maybe not even that long. Here will be, wow, that was what we voted against. So it's scary.
I'm seeing this, we're all seeing this as like a new political strategy from mostly from the left and people who are really trying to push extreme liberal agendas. They propose something that's absolutely ridiculous that just could never ever work, and it's a way to virtue signal, to gain awareness, to start pointing people in a certain direction, and then like you're saying, they can do the smaller stuff and it's not as worrisome because
incremental steps.
We saw it. I mentioned to you, I wish I remembered her actual name, the congresswoman named Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez. It's definitely not that, but AOC is what they called her. And she had the new Green Deal a number of years ago, and that would have banned all gasoline engines. It would have banned this and that. It would have made it to where everything was public transport only, and there was going to be trains that went across the ocean to connect countries. So just really, really ridiculous and impossible, but it got a lot of coverage. It got a ton of donations, made a whole bunch of money that they were then able to funnel into other projects that could actually pass. And I really feel like we're seeing that a lot on this. It's virtue signaling. It's coming up with the most extreme version of what they desire for the world, and then using it to rally people and make money and get signatures to then do other things that can actually pass and actually happen,
Yeah, to us, these things sound ridiculous and no one would believe them, but in their eyes, this is the way things should be. They are totally serious about this, the same way we are about what we think of. So it's really interesting to be around these people and talk to them. I've done it a number of years at Fish and Wildlife Committee hearings on different issues.
Wow.
They're very passionate. They're very educated. They're very well financed. They are educated.
I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, no, they're highly educated. They have unlimited money supply behind them and access to lawyers. It's just an ongoing, relentless pursuit of their ideals.
Yeah. I've heard people talk about this on other outdoor podcasts, that the anti-hunting people can, like you said, send out a letter with a picture of sad puppies or kittens or a lion on it, and then all the crazy cat ladies send in their money. Yeah. So my question is, who are our crazy cat ladies that will be willing to send in money to support the legitimate hunting conservation fundraisers.
Well, what we as trappers have found in when the houndsmen lost the right to hunt cougars and bears with dogs, that was the first nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
We saw our lifestyle the next thing to go. Fortunately, we had some members who were very good at organizing groups, and we started getting coalitions together. You got to build a coalition. You cannot fight these people alone. You don't have the time, the money, or the resources. But if you bring all the groups together, then that's where your strength lies, and not just within your state, even outside the state, because these people are not just trying to stop things in Oregon. They're everywhere. We have joined with the Cattlemen's Association, a nursery, the ranchers, the farmers, fly tyers.
Even outside of hunting.
Oh, yeah, everywhere. Fly tying people, all this stuff affects so many people. Lure manufacturers. So that's what is the whole key is for us to build a coalition of resource and people and money to fight this.
Let's move on to our conversation with Doug Nichol. Let me take a drink real quick. Good stuff so far, Doug. Good stuff. So, Doug, the thing we ask every guest, please share your favorite hunting or fishing story.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of them over the years with a lot of different people, but I think it always goes back to about 10, 12 years ago. My son and I went with an outfitter up in the Nichol wilderness. We have spent a lot of time with this guy and had kind of worked with him, but we'd gone on a number of hunts with him. And we went back into the Nichol wilderness area for a 14-day mule deer hunt.
Wow.
Well, at the same time, my son-in-law had drawn a coveted bighorn sheep tag in the Nichol unit.
In the Nichol, too?
Yes, at that time. Now it's gone down to every other year. They're doing it with Washington, but he had one, and it was the only one in the unit.
Wow.
And so we went in for 14 days of mule deer hunting, 15, 18 miles back in the wilderness in a tent camp. And my son shot a really nice, 170 class buck.
Wow.
And I had a couple opportunities at like some 200-inch bucks, and things just didn't work out. But
wow,
when we came out of that, then we went and started bighorn sheep hunting.
That's cool.
Right on the edge, we were going back into the wilderness, back into the Nichol, over on the Grand Ronde side, all around, watching bands of ewes, looking for a big ram to come in.
Yeah.
And so I was 31 days in the wilderness hunting.
Wow.
And I came out one time, took a shower, and went back in. They really encouraged me to come out and take a shower. I'm like, no, I'm good. And they're like, no, you really need to go out.
Those sheep are smelling you from across the river.
Yeah, and that could well be. But yes, it was a great time. I thank my wife, for handling things, and we shut the business down. So
for 31 days.
For 31 days, my son and I, and then when we came out, there was 4 or 5 more guys that came and hunted sheep with us, and my son-in-law got a nice ram next to the last day.
Oh.
So the big rams for whatever that year, most of them were up in Washington, and they come down into Oregon for the rut.
Okay.
And so that's what we saw was all the rams fighting and everything. And we kept waiting for a bigger ram. But he ended up shooting a nice ram next to the last day, because that's not a tag you want to eat.
No.
So I had a lot of experiences, saw moose, saw wolves, deer, elk, everything up in there.
Yeah.
And I was in really good shape going in, and I was even better shape coming out. So I wish I could still be in that good a shape.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
Man. So, and just for some background there, like you and your son run the business, and you guys are plumbers.
Yes, we have TG Nichol Plumbing in Almsville. So it's a family business that started Mom and Dad started in 1959.
Yeah.
And I went to work for him in 71, 72. And then my son now is a journeyman plumber. So yeah.
And you're able to shut it down for a month and spend all that time in the Nichol unit.
Well, I do it. That's the advantage of being self-employed. and you can do those kind of things. You got to pay for it somewhere in
Sure.
the year. There's
Save
a lot
up
of
for
hours
it.
made up at some point,
Yeah.
but that's the same way with hunting and trapping now. Fortunately, I have my son now, and we kind of tag
Yeah.
team, and he'll be gone, I'll be gone.
Yeah.
Because we also have a little cattle farm and raise cattle, so there's always cows calving this time of year,
Yep.
feeding, all that needs to be going on. So it's busy.
And you mentioned that your wife held down the fort.
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids.
And how old were they at this point?
Oh, they were both married and gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're out and about. They all live close.
Uh-huh.
So, and then I got 6 grandkids.
The reason I asked is because our last episode with Nathan, we basically talked all about hunting and fishing and balancing that between family life.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And
That's
so
tough.
now you're in a completely different chapter of life. Nathan and I both have young kids.
Yeah.
Been married for less than 10 years. I don't know how long he's been married, but
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to hear you now tell this story.
Right.
I was gone for 31 days in the Winnehaw, came out one time to take a shower, and it's really interesting, different perspective.
And it does. Your life changes all the time. Life isn't anything but changes. So you're always dealing, you're always adjusting, you're always coping with either physical, relational, work-related, You just got to be able to be flexible.
Yeah.
That's been probably one of the best things about being self-employed. I mean, granted, I'm the last guy that gets paid being the boss. Everybody else gets paid. All the bills get paid. If there's anything left, maybe I get paid.
Yep.
So, that is one of the parts of things you have to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I can, if work will allow, then I can schedule, extended vacations like that.
One of the things I wanted to ask about that adventure, you said you were dealing with wolves out there, but wolves nowadays, or how long ago was this?
Yeah, the wolves had been established there even then. That was 10 years ago.
10 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not as long ago as I was thinking.
Yeah, but I've hunted the Winnehaw since the late 60s.
Wow.
So, and that's where the wolves first came into Oregon. There's a lot of talk about how they got here, but there were moose coming across from Washington and Idaho.
Yep.
And some people say,
And we have the Shiras moose out
yes,
there, right?
up there. Saw some tremendous nice bulls up there.
Yeah.
But the wolves followed them. I know people have said that the wolves got aerial help from Fish and Wildlife and the feds to move around the state. I believe that is true also. So, but yeah, we saw the wolves come in and start, at first you'd hear them, and that's really raises hair on the back of your neck. And it's it's a different sound than you think. It's kind of real melodious noise, it's amazing. But
yeah, I haven't experienced that because I haven't really hunted east, which...
Well, anymore, you can go up here around Detroit and listen to them, too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They're there
There's
now,
the
too.
established pack.
Yeah.
So you said you started hunting it in the 60s.
Yeah.
Do you know about what first decade you heard a wolf howl?
Probably was in maybe the late 90s, I suppose, when
so
we
you,
win
you potentially
tracks.
had about 30 years of hunting out there.
Yeah, before wolves showed up.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was not that long ago in time frame of how long I've been up in there. But just to see the change in the elk and the deer population already is frightening.
Yeah.
But it's established. That's the sad thing, is it's already been established in Montana and Wyoming and Idaho what wolves do. But here we got them.
You've mentioned a lot, like you grew up in Oregon, you grew up hunting and fishing. Like, when did you start hunting and fishing and trapping?
Well, Dad hunted. He didn't really do a lot of fishing, but he was really involved in the business, starting the business, so that now I can take time off to do this,
Wow.
But I grew up hunting and fishing from, early age.
Okay.
Mom would take us down a little town by the river down in North Santiam area and drop me and my cousin off, and we'd walk with our shotguns down and jump a bunch of sloughs and hunt ducks and walk back up the road and packing our ducks, and everybody would stop and give us congratulations, and we'd walk back to the little store and call Mom. She'd come get us, It was it was a different era.
It must have been much more wild out there.
Yeah, it was. But at that time, here we're trespassing. We're walking down across all these farmers' fields, and they'd wave to you. Now, how you do this time, and it
really?
was, things have changed. I feel sad for my grandsons now not to have that opportunity, but it's just It's just the way life is at this
So you
point.
could just walk through the fields down to the river, and
There was a few pieces of property that we could not go through.
and they probably had it posted.
Yeah, they were protecting it or they were hunting it, and so we stayed
Mm-hmm.
away from those. But there was many miles of
Wow.
farm ground and stuff that we could go
Hmm.
through. And I can remember going up on the Little North Fork in high school in the 70s, fishing down the river for steelhead, for winter steelhead.
Yeah.
And just walking miles down along the river and coming back out. And nobody gave you any grief at all about it. And
Yeah.
now, you couldn't hardly go up there at all.
Wow, man. Yeah, different world.
Yeah, different world, different
Yeah.
times, yeah.
And were you always in Almsville growing up?
Yes, I've lived here all my life. We lived in Staten for 12 years, but other than that,
Yeah.
I've been in a big metropolitan town of Almsville. So.
But in that time, you've definitely seen some development.
Oh, yeah, the
some
whole
growth.
area, the whole country's grown up. I can remember as a kid that the population sign in Almsville said 360.
Yeah.
So, you knew a lot of people, but,
Yeah.
now we're just a bedroom suburb of Salem is all we are.
Yeah, really. Was there a lot of hunting in the valley that you got to do?
Yeah, there was, like I say, not a lot of geese. It's just amazing the amount of geese around here. When I was in high school, to see a goose was a rarity.
Really?
Now
Wow.
I was over by Cascade the other day, and I saw 6,000 or 7,000 of them flying
Man.
over into a cornfield over
Yeah.
there. Incredible amount of difference.
Wow.
That time here is now with the geese population. Hunted a lot of ducks, and there was a fair amount of pheasants back then too, and quail.
I've heard older guys talk about
Yeah.
the pheasants, and that's something I've never seen.
Right.
Because
There
it's
was a
just
lot
not
more
anymore.
fence rows, brush rows. They didn't farm it to border of the property. So, and I don't remember seeing the raccoon and the possums on the road dead. I think maybe
Really?
for whatever reason. Of course, fur was more valuable back then.
Yeah, were there more hound hunters and trappers?
Trapping was still not very big. Everybody was
Really?
pretty secretive. You
Okay.
didn't want anybody to know where you were trapping or what you were doing. So you kept that pretty low key.
And we'll talk more about that,
Yeah.
definitely. So growing up, hunting and fishing in Oregon was a completely different world than it is now.
Yes, it was totally different. It was just a lot more open and flexible and opportunistic. Seasons were longer. I mean, you bought a deer tag for the state. You didn't buy
Yeah.
it for a little bitty county or half of a parsec out there. You could hunt east. You could hunt west. You had a month to do it in.
And, well, that's a fairly recent change.
And it has progressed from east to west, and now archery to rifle to muzzleloader. I mean, there's getting just to be so many people that they've had to do that.
Uh-huh. Of all the things that we can do today in 2024, what is the most similar to what it was like back in the heyday?
There's a lot of ducks around. I'm amazed at,
Yeah.
the wood ducks I'm seeing.
Oh, I saw so many wood ducks this year.
And that was a rarity. You had to really find little pockets of them. So geese, it's just incredible, the number of geese.
Yeah.
There's still salmon and steelhead in the rivers. Yeah, it varies from year to year on return runs
We had
and
a
everything.
really good fall coho run this
Yeah.
last year in the Willamette.
We never had really any bass around. We didn't have
Really?
any smallmouth. I can remember
Okay.
catching a smallmouth on the Santiam River at the I-5 bridge.
Yep.
And we were steelhead
rest stop
fishing
there?
along the riprap on the north side of the rest area there, and we were drifting the river for steelhead,
Yeah.
and hooked in and landed this 4.5, 5 pound smallmouth, and we're
Wow.
like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So
Did you eat it?
I think we turned it back. It's been-
Okay.
yeah. But it was still just cool
It's
to
the-
see,
it's the
that
many
nobody had ever
great-
caught a
yeah.
smallmouth before. So that was a resource we didn't know was available.
Because that's big now.
Yeah.
And, we've had several professional bass fishermen on the show from Oregon. who,
Yeah.
that's a whole industry now.
Oh,
here.
yes, it's really caught on and grown.
Yeah.
But back then, no, nobody bass fished. It was,
They've been catching more and more walleye.
yes, on the Columbia here
Yep,
too. Just
even on the Willamette.
on the Willamette now
Yep,
too, huh?
uh-huh.
Yeah, well, if that's good or bad, but
Yeah,
it's a resource.
Probably
so
bad for the salmon.
what they're eating.
apparently.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Maybe they'll eat the carp and the pike minnows.
right, there's a lot of them in there. So yeah.
Was there a lot of carp back in the day?
Not so much carp, but a lot of suckers in the river.
Okay.
I used to scuba dive and snorkel and
Really?
stuff in the river.
Oh.
Yeah, for
Would you-
years.
just for fun? Just
No,
looking for
I was
stuff?
hunting them with a spear gun.
Oh, really?
I was hunting underwater. Yeah,
Wow.
out on the coast, out on the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and up
yeah.
in the rivers too.
Because
So,
I haven't met anyone who does. I mean, I'm sure there's someone who does it in the rivers, but I know a couple people that do it on the coast,
yeah.
but not the rivers. So,
Yeah, no, we'd
yeah.
go up on a little North Fork and
Uh-huh.
dive the deep holes and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Man, I love hearing about, the way things were, comparing it to the way things are, and
yeah. Living it at that time and now looking back, it's almost sad to reminisce about it because it's like, oh man, now my grandkids can't do that.
sure, yeah.
How do I
yeah.
explain to them, the thrill and enjoyment of doing that, and what's lost
Yeah.
is sad.
How has blacktail hunting changed?
There's probably more down here lower. Before, all the blacktails were up high.
Really?
Up in the national forest and stuff. There was some down in the farm ground,
Is it
but
just because they were overhunted in the valley?
well, no. I think what's happened is the logging practices up high. Now they're not doing the clear cutting like they did before.
So there's not as much food.
Not as much food. You
Got
don't,
it.
and the elk are still surviving in pockets, but and
Mm-hmm.
then you've got the cougars, the bears, and now the wolves that all take a toll
Yeah,
on them.
and those guys don't like to hang out in the valley. Too many people.
So the blacktails have kind of moved down low, and
Okay.
not that there aren't still some up above,
Yeah.
up higher, but by far much less
Mm-hmm.
than there used to be.
I'll speak generally. I've noticed the guys who really put in for the effort for those high elevation blacktails, they usually hold out and come out with some really impressive bucks who have a little bit of that mule deer DNA in them.
Right? Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
then in the valley and in the foothills, there's a lot of deer.
there is. I mean,
They're not as big, but every once in a while, you see a monster or hear of someone getting a
Yeah.
monster. But
yeah, my son killed a big blacktail buck in my backyard this year.
Yeah.
Buck we'd never seen.
Yeah.
Big old. I mean, he
Old.
was old buck, and
can you describe him?
he was kind of a real heavy horned. He come out of his skull kind of normal, and then about 4 inches out, it kind of mushroomed up, kind of doubled in size.
Yeah.
Had a little drop tine on one side, and
Yep.
just kind of a big club horn looking bugger, but big,
he was
fat.
He was weird looking.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah,
When you
and
showed me the
unique.
pictures, it was cool.
But we see bucks around there, and
Mm-hmm.
but blacktails are just so secretive, and
Yeah.
until they come out in a rut,
Yeah.
you just really don't know what's in an area. It's amazing how they can hide and live, just like this buck did.
Yeah.
For 6, 8, 9 years. I don't know how old he had.
Yeah.
A few molars left. He had no teeth up
Yeah.
front. But yet he was as fat as could be, so he's living on somebody's garden or something.
yeah,
I
he's
don't know.
eating
Acorns.
The
He had
nice pasture land. Yeah.
enough molars left to eat some acorns, I guess. But he was chasing a doe, so that
Yeah.
cost him there. You
Yep.
know,
That's
like a lot
how you
of
get
them.
'em.
Yeah.
So, but then with that, growing up in Oregon and growing up in Almsville, did you ever see bucks like that in your backyard growing up?
No.
Hmm.
There was a few deer down low. Now the farm we live on, we bought from a family that had moved here in 1889.
Wow.
And they saw tremendous change. The land was all logged and cut and farmed, and
Wow.
and they never saw a buck. They down low.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't. They never saw any blacktails. There was a lot of ducks and geese because it was all swampy. It was before
Oh,
they started
yeah.
digging and draining it
Yep.
for flood control and irrigation. But no, there was no blacktails in the valley at all.
Wow.
So and now
we have
you
a
see
lot
a
of
lot
them.
of
We have
blacktails
a
down in
lot of valley
urban
bucks.
deer, city
Yep.
deer. Yeah,
And
for
this
sure.
isn't the time to talk about it, but I've noticed too that our valley blacktail behave more in the way that people talk about eastern whitetail.
Oh yes,
And then our
Yeah.
our mountain blacktail act like blacktail.
Yeah.
But our
Oh, yeah.
valley bucks, they act totally different.
sure. They're getting used to being around people and laying up against your house and sunning on a nice day.
Yeah.
Stuff that you wouldn't think a blacktail would ever do.
Yeah.
But like you say, you get up in the higher, 1,000-foot level or so, and you get back into the old style blacktail, sneaking around through the brush and the ferns and
Yep.
nocturnal type deer.
Disappearing during the day, hiding in caves wherever the heck they go,
Yeah.
we don't know. But
Crawling under, low tree or something.
Yep,
Yeah. Oh
yep.
yeah, definitely.
So when I first was starting to get to know you. We had a little rifle sighting event for the church at your place, and you took me into your taxidermy room, and you showed me all these crazy beasts that you got up in the Yukon. And I just wanted to ask you about that. Like, when did you do that? And you told me that you kind of did that back before it was super expensive and popular to go.
Yeah, I've got my dead animal room,
Yeah.
and you walk into my house and you either love it or hate it.
You had a few decades to collect them.
It's a real quick decision there that you can make. So yes, Dad and I had opportunity in the early 70s to go up in the Yukon and hunt. And at that time, it was $100 a day to hunt. It was what the outfitter charged you. And we went up in there for 21 days.
Wow.
Flew back into a little lake, took some horses, another full day back in the mountains. And you bought a tag for each species that was like $20, $15, $5. And then if you were successful when you came out, you paid a trophy fee. And I think on my Doll sheep, it was, I don't know, $500 maybe. And I killed a wolf, and it was like $50. And a moose was, a couple $100. So at that time, a working man, I thought at the time, I didn't have my moose mounted. I just had his horns put on the plaque. He was 53 inches, which was pretty reasonable as an Alaskan Yukon moose. But at that time, I thought, hey, I'm going to do this every couple years, working man. I could still do this.
Yeah.
And just shortly after that, then the prices just escalated, compoundly. And now,
you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars for that trip now, right?
Oh, yeah, $100,000,
Whoa,
by the time you get it. So I got a Doll sheep, I got a moose, I got a grizzly bear, I got a wolf. I didn't get a caribou. They were just migrating in as we were coming out, and they'd run up within 100 yards of you to see what you were.
Oh, yeah.
And, okay, I would have maybe shot one, but I never saw a really good bull.
Oh, sure.
So Dad got a nice bull, caribou.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, I mean.
Where's that caribou at now?
It's hanging down at the shop.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But,
cool.
it was amazing how much you could do for the money back then.
Yeah.
At that time, money went a lot further. Not that it was easily obtained. But dollar for dollar, it was still a doable thing. You could save for a few years and go on a good hunt. Where now, a Doll sheep is 30, 40,000, and a moose is equal, and a grizzly bear is who knows. And so, it was something that I assumed I would do many more times and haven't, not to that degree. Yeah.
I know. I mean, in my position now, being a younger guy, growing, looking toward the future of what I might be able to do for adventure hunts, man, it is on my bucket list. I really want to hunt caribou in Alaska. That's something that I want to experience. But man, I started saving up for a little bit, then we had to spend it on something else, and now I'm just back to ground zero.
Yeah, well, welcome to life, But there is some do-it-yourself hunts up there. Sitka blacktail it would be pretty awesome to go on, and then like say the caribou, you could go up there for drop camp too.
Their blacktail population is really healthy right now in southeast Alaska.
Right.
I don't know what part of Alaska you got to go to for good caribou hunting, but
up north, on the North Slope up there is, I think the couple of the herds have kind of suffered over the last few years and have really dropped in numbers, but a couple of them are still healthy and good.
Yeah,
but it's a lot of migration stuff, so you got to time that just right too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the more people I meet in life, the more, this person lives in Alaska,
Oh, yeah.
There's always
contacts.
the opportunity for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you got to develop your contacts.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever make it to the Yukon to get a moose and a grizzly and a Doll sheep and a wolf.
Yeah. Well, the Lord was good to me, and it just opened it up and happened to be. I wasn't even supposed to be there. But Dad was going with another guy, and he couldn't end up not going. And so I stepped in and had that opportunity.
Man.
And so now I still have it in my memory and on the wall.
All that to say, thanks for sharing your memories with us. And, you bring a lot of experience with the outdoors, and you're still going strong to this day. So one thing that is important for our show is we always want our listeners to be able to walk away with, some tangible tips. So now we're going to get back into the trapping. We haven't really talked too much trapping.
Yeah,
no. So I just want to ask a few basic questions.
Sure.
So first of all, for someone who's never trapped before, but they're interested in getting started, and we're going to pretend that this person doesn't even have a family member that traps, but they want to start trapping. What does it take to get started?
Well, education is the big thing. Trapping is kind of controversial. And so we're really trying to promote education, and so that people don't go out there and make some big mistakes and end up on the nightly news and in a lawsuit and,
killing a dog or something.
Yeah, horrible things that can happen. And so we have, as an organization, always promoted education. We have a trapper school that we put on this year. It's April the 22nd, I believe, down at E.E. Wilson Refuge. And it's open to the public. You can go to the Oregon Trapping Association website, OTA, and sign up. Free day. Teach water trapping, land trapping, cage trapping, mole and gopher trapping.
Oh, really?
You know, so it rotates you around to different trappers, really good guys, feed you lunch, give you a bunch of handouts. So we've really promoted that, and we're working at developing that at different areas around the state. So the other thing is you can get through Fish and Wildlife the Trapper Education Handbook pamphlet.
Oh, okay.
And what it is they'll ship it, or you can go in and pick it up. Home study course, a lot of good information, kind of basic stuff, but that's what's required for you to kind of learn, read through before you then reapply, call Fish and Wildlife to set up to take your trapping test.
Oh, got it.
So you have to have a certified brand. So once you pass your trapping test, you are issued a brand number for life. So whether you ever trap again or you wait 50 years, you still have that number.
Oh.
That number is put on your trap, your snares, your conibears, your cage trap.
Okay.
So that...
And what about when you check in a fur? Does your number go on it?
It goes on typically the paperwork, yes.
Okay, but not on the
not on the
tag.
animal, yeah. No, you still have to have your bobcats and your otters tagged through Fish and Wildlife. That's a whole nother thing, a whole nother license. Rules you have to do for that as far as information you have to get. Bottom jaw you got to turn in to age it. But once you pass the test, pay your money, then you're issued your brand number. That goes on all your stuff so that if anything would happen, they could trace that trap back to you. Whether it's stolen or something gets in it that shouldn't be,
or
police
you leave
get it
for too long.
Yes, if you lose it, they can trace it back to you.
Well, because you're only allowed to have a trap out for 48 hours, right?
The trap check currently is for 48 hours. Other than if an animal is in nuisance damage control, you have a little bit more flexibility there.
Yeah.
Especially with big game animals, cougars and bears, which you can't trap in a snare or a foothold. Once they are certified as causing damage and you get a permit from Fish and Wildlife, then you can use snares or footholds for them, or hunt them with hounds, or hunt them at night.
Have you ever done that with, have you ever trapped cougar or bear?
I have not purposely done it.
Okay.
I did pinch a cougar one time, bobcat trapping. Fortunately, cougar, big, strong animal, big foot, and he pulled right out.
Oh, okay. I was going to say catch a tiger by its toe.
Yes, it's quite a thrilling process to go through to release them. You can call Fish and Wildlife. They'll come out and dart the animal and remove it. But most people just do it themselves, and you can YouTube it and see some incredible sites about guys releasing cougars and bears.
I did see this one video pretty recently. This younger guy, probably in his early 20s, he comes up on his trap and there's a cougar in it, and it's hissing at him. And then the video ends, and the next video is him walking out with a huge cut in his cheek. Oh, he got a little too close.
Yeah, they're incredibly fast, strong. Sharp claws. They're a scary animal.
One thing that people who don't like trapping or uncomfortable with it, they always point to bycatch. And how prevalent is bycatch, or what? Like, is it
non-target.
easy to avoid?
Non-target. If you're a knowledgeable trapper, I don't know that there really is a non-target catch. Maybe you didn't count on it.
Yeah.
But you're going to utilize that animal anyway. Animals go down trails. They go down paths. They slide into water at certain spots. So you can pretty well eliminate most of that. The problem where we get into is guys who get a little sloppy and don't want to get far enough off the trail or the trailhead. or think I gotta set this trap right here to catch this animal, when 100 feet down the creek or river or across on the other side or somewhere else, another fence corner down at the other end, could be just as well, might be better, and would alleviate that conflict of catching someone's dog.
Okay.
But I mean, other than maybe possums, but skunks, I love skunks. I love to catch skunks. I do really good catching skunks. Right now, you can $12-15 for a skunk, and then you take the essence out and you have that to sell.
Yeah,
but
use it as a lure, right?
Yeah, but guys are catching beaver and selling the carcass for dog food or cutting the meat themselves. The skull has a market. The tail has a market.
No.
I mean, you can actually utilize about 70% of that beaver if you want to.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and nutria, they're good to eat. Bobcats are good to eat. I mean, all these things can be consumed.
Yeah.
And utilized to a far degree.
Yeah. Are a lot of people doing that? Is it becoming more popular to do that?
It is. People are realizing that, it's a resource that can be utilized. And in today's world, just makes everything look a lot better towards us than, what we don't want is guys to go catch, 150 beaver and throw them off the bridge all in the same spot.
Yeah.
So
that's that image.
That's not good. Yeah. But you can still use that. I used to catch a lot of nutrias when they were more valuable than what they are now. And I would spread them out down along the river under a lot of big cottonwood and bam trees. And I'd have raptors there. I think they were following my truck because they'd be waiting there for me to throw these carcasses out. So it was amazing how they were utilized.
Do you want to know a funny story?
Sure.
When I worked on the farm up there out of Yamhill, Carlton area.
Yeah.
And there's this bridge when you're coming into Yamhill on West Side Road that goes over the Yamhill River. And someone looked over the bridge and they saw what looked exactly like human hands in the water. And so they called the police. The police came, they shut down the bridge, they brought in the detectives. For a whole day, this whole everyone's talking about it. They found human hands in the river in Yamhill.
Yeah.
Then they send them in and someone says, these are bear hands.
Bear hands, which look remarkably like humans.
Looked so much like a human hand, but it was bear hands.
Right.
And so then there you go.
Yeah.
Don't, maybe that's a lesson for all of us is watch where we're throwing our carcasses for the image.
It makes a big difference how you dispose of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
How it can come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say someone's got their unique number.
Their brand number.
And they're getting excited to get out and trap. What kind of gear do people normally start with? So
trapping is like anything. It's specific to what you're going to trap, size-wise and usage-wise. There's a lot of new methods out now. Here about 8 or 10 years ago, they did a best management practice scientific study on traps in Canada and the United States, and they actually connected trappers with scientists, and you had a technician that would ride with you as a trapper, hand you a trap, and you'd put that trap in the ground.
Wow.
And then they'd go along with you and take that animal out of the trap, and they'd do a narcoscopy on that animal to see actually what damage was done.
Died.
Scientific. Yeah. To see what kind of damage was done. And then they'd give you another trap that was modified differently. And they did this with all types of modifications on conibears, foothold traps, snares.
Yeah.
And we really improved how we trap. So that's why education is so important now.
Yeah.
So best is if you can mentor, get with somebody and learn, because there are a lot of small details that make a lot of difference in trapping. Yeah. Whether you're water trapping, dry land trapping, snaring, cage trapping, there's little techniques that take time to learn. None of it is, monumental. And anymore with the internet, with YouTube, you can learn a lot of this really fast. But, hands-on out in the woods along the river is basically your best teacher.
Yeah.
But to know first how to do it correctly is very important.
And so they were able to scientifically find the best practices,
modifications
that
Yeah.
You're still effective at trapping, but you're not damaging the animals and you're not getting as much non-target catch.
Right. Well, yeah, they're not doing as much damage to that foot, to that shoulder. They're killing it quickly if it's a kill type trap.
Yeah.
So, yes, there was just a whole list of modifications, and most all new traps now come with those modifications. Or you can modify them yourself fairly quickly. Thicker jaws, center swiveling off of it, jaws that on conibears that close tighter. So there's just a lot of different things that you get into trapping that but the best thing about it was that it was a scientific done study outside the trapping fraternity here that was highly controlled and documented. So now we have that to go back and show.
Yeah, and it was legitimate.
It was. Yeah. We can say it wasn't just Trapper Joe Blow down there saying, hey, I like this trap, because it was actually documented.
And when was this?
That was probably about 10 years ago. It was about a 5-year study to go through and do this to all the traps with local trappers.
And they did that across the
Canada and United States.
Wow. Was there any Oregon specific?
Yes, there was. Yeah, there was 4 or 5 trappers here that I know that were involved in it. Yeah.
That's super cool though that they did that. I like that. Is there a type of trapping that people normally start with, whether an animal or a type of trap that is good to dip your toes?
Yeah, it seems like talking to people, a lot of people start with muskrats.
Okay. Do we have a lot of muskrats here?
We don't have a lot of muskrats, but back east they do. And a lot of people that, grew up, trapping with their dad or their grandpa started on muskrats.
Yep.
Doesn't take a lot of gear. Small animal, drowns
you get
quickly.
Out like to the Midwest and
yes.
Yeah.
But there is, you get into sloughs and creeks and ponds and lakes, and there are some nutria around here, are of real damage. They really dig into the bank. And
I shot one this year with a duck load.
Yeah.
When I was
There's everybody shoots nutrias.
Yep.
So, which, they're an invasive species. They were brought in here for fur farming and then turned loose.
Yep.
So, they compete. And so, but at one time they were valuable up to $12 a pelt. Now they're not, because what happened to them was Truth in Labeling came along. And nobody
no one likes that name.
They would shear and color them and call them a fake mink or call them mink. And now they got to call them a nutria, and nobody wants to wear a nutria coat.
Oh, man.
So that kind of killed the nutria market.
Yeah.
So
they just got a bad rap.
They got the short side of that.
So you told me with the beaver, you pluck the longer hairs and you shear it and you get that perfectly smooth,
yes,
just the most comfortable thing you can imagine.
Right.
But with a nutria, you can only do that to the belly, right?
To the belly. The belly is all. That's where the best fur is, on a nutria.
What do you do with the back?
I don't know what they do with the backs. We sell the whole hide.
Oh, okay.
So, we don't cut it apart or anything. It's a total fur that we sell. I know the female nutria, on their backs is where their nipples are for their young to nurse, so they can float in the water and the young come up and nurse. So that kind of limits their value, as far as that goes. But their hair on the back's a lot coarser and rougher.
Got it.
Not like the belly fur at all on a nutria.
So let's say that someone's now got their brand number, they've got their traps, they've decided what they want to trap. What kind of permits are needed?
So once you have your trapping license, there is a season on fur bearers, so you have that to work under. The only other thing you need is for bobcats and otters. And the reason that is under the federal CITES program, which is dealing with animals that are look similar to ours, but that are endangered.
Yeah, okay, I've heard about this.
So down in South America, they have the South American river otter that resembles our North American river otter. So that's why they want to be able to document where it came from and trace it back.
To prove that it's a North American
That it's
otter.
a North American. And our bobcats resemble the African cat over there, the Cercel or Sisal, whatever. It's got a name. It's a little cat, but it has big tufts on its ears, kind of more like a lynx. But so you have to buy a otter card, which I think gives you 15 otter, and you can buy extra cards.
Okay.
for $39.
Is there
or
a lot of
something.
otter trapping around here?
There's a lot of otter. Yeah, we have a lot of otter in the rivers.
You
in the
trapped one in
ponds.
your pond last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got a couple out of my little pond there in the backyard.
Yeah.
But my grandson's caught 4 this year already. Season ends here on the 15th, so he's
Yeah.
about done. Beaver and otter trapping is the last thing to close.
Okay.
And then bobcats, you can buy a Western bobcat card, which basically is unlimited number of cats you can catch.
Oh.
You can buy an Eastern card, which allows you 5 cats,
Oh.
or you can buy a statewide card, which is something fairly new that also has 5 cats. Now, the reason that is Eastern Oregon cats are a lot more valued.
Yeah.
And they're
yeah.
a lot more highly pursued.
Yep.
Where Western Oregon cats are darker, not as valuable, not as well colored.
Yeah.
That's why they're unlimited. But there's so much area in the state that is not accessible by
Yeah.
trappers. That is just a nursery for animals coming out of timberland, national forest land, refuges, that cats are always filling into areas that we harvest them out of. So that's why in Western Oregon, they're not, even though they're unlimited, guys are not pursuing them to that degree.
With that too, because we had a houndsman on, and he was talking about the bobcat cards and all that. It's the same thing, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's the same exact
Right,
card.
right. Same card, right. Only one card.
As we're talking about furs and stuff, is there ever been a market for like gopher furs?
Not so much. I know some people who have brought in gophers and moles. Moles are incredible little fur. I mean,
Yeah,
they're just
yeah.
they're just dark and silk and
Yeah.
thick and but no, nothing's ever been really developed for
Okay,
it.
because I mean, gophers they're still pretty furry, but it's kind of gross, honestly.
Yeah. They lived in the ground, and
Yeah.
so they're in a colder environment all the time or a damp
Yeah.
environment. So, but no, I've seen a few people bring them in, and the fur buyers will maybe give you 50 cents or $1. I've seen little young kids bring in fur that way and go to a fur
Oh, yeah.
buyer and talk to them, and okay, he'll give them a few extra
Yeah,
bucks,
yeah,
because
that's
they
fun.
market it good.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there's not really a market for those.
When I worked on the farm, that was my wintertime job, was trapping those.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Growing up, one time when I was a kid, I trapped a pure white gopher with my cousin,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it didn't have red eyes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it wasn't albino.
It was just a white
pure
face.
white gopher. That was the only gopher of it. My uncle actually put it in the freezer to hold on to it because it was so cool.
Neat looking. Yeah, it's amazing what you can find out there in the wild, the variance
Yeah.
of color phases.
Uh-huh.
Nutria are the same way. Every once in a while, we'll get a black nutria
Oh.
or a white nutria or a brown nutria
Yeah.
that will kick back to when they were ranch raised, some kind of genetic a gene that
Yeah.
will kick out. So
Yeah. I wonder if I could have sold that white gopher.
yeah, maybe to a museum or
Could have
something.
made
or
a pair of socks out of it, or just one sock, I guess. Now you've got your traps, you got your target animal, you got your permits. How do you even find a spot?
Well, a lot of people maybe start out on the family farm or
Okay.
somebody they know or a farmer they know that's having problems down on the river. I mean, that's kind of how I started out. Water trapping was I knew a bunch of kids whose dads were farmers and they were having trouble with animals. And so, hey, you trap, come down here. So at that time, back in the early 80s, it was more of a trial and error, learn as you go type of thing. There was a few books that were available that kind of generally told you what to do, but not to the extent of knowledge that's available now. But yeah, I mean, definitely you got to find some place to go.
Yeah.
So here in the valley, most of it's private ground. Now you go over in Eastern Oregon, where is national forest, rangeland, BLM. If you're going to go out coyote trapping, bobcat trapping type of thing, you drive out there and you look. I got 800 million acres out here to
Yeah,
trap in.
man.
What do I do?
Uh-huh.
So then it's location. Same thing. Gullies, crossings, fence rows.
Trails,
You
yeah.
got to go out and look. And that's one thing I think that makes a trapper such a good outdoorsman is because you're looking all the time.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go, you're looking at the creek. Is there a beaver peel in there? Is there a slide? Hey, has this trail got coyote tracks on it? Hey,
Yeah.
this is a funnel spot here where bobcats are going to come through. I'm
Yeah.
going to hang a snare here, So you're looking all the time for stuff.
Well, what's the like trapping etiquette on that? If you're looking for a place and then you start seeing someone else's traps, you go to a whole new mountain, or
Yeah, I
what's
mean,
the
that
border?
kind of is, first come, first serve. Whoever's there is first on public ground, right? At times when fur is very valuable and there's a lot of guys out there, it can get kind of cutthroat. Guys can start springing your traps or
Oh,
taking
really?
your animals out. I've lost quite a few animals and quite a
Really?
few traps from people stealing them. So it
Has
happens.
that happened recently since furs aren't worth as much?
No, not so much lately. You've got a pretty wide open field out there. It's a great time to learn how to trap and to put up fur. Because if you ruin something, skinning it out or trying to flesh it, each animal has a certain shape you want to have them at to sell. So there's specific shapes and boards and, and so it's a great time to learn because it's like, well, I ruined that, but that's only $5, So
sure.
I'm not ruining a $50 bill or a $100 bill or
Yeah.
or a $1,000 bill for some cats.
Good time to learn.
Yeah.
Before we talk about hides, continuing on with finding a spot, is there any kind of owner type that there's no trapping allowed? Like you've mentioned you can trap on BLM, National Forest. Is there any kind of...
Sure, railroad right-of-ways, you can't trap them.
Okay.
City, municipals, you have to, if you can, it would be by permit.
Got it.
Indian reservations, you can't trap those.
Okay.
So there are, and that's all listed in the regulations.
And with permission, you can do any private, right?
Yes, you can be agent of the landowner.
Okay.
And work on his property.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you do want to have written permission just in case you are checked that way on private land.
Okay.
So because I know at times ownership changes and people will go, well, I had permission here 2 years ago. Well, it could have changed hands. So you definitely want to get permission every year.
Well, what about like public rivers that you can float and fish and hunt?
Right. Yeah,
are those pretty crowded though, with everyone wanting to trap the beavers?
At times, this year beaver are a little more valuable.
Okay.
There's a big demand right now for felt cowboy hats.
Okay.
So there you go. Felt
There's your
hats are
beavers.
back in the vogue now,
Yep.
back in the rage. And so beaver have come up in value for fur hats.
Okay.
So there is a little bit more demand, but it's not like back in the 1880s, It's now they're $30, $35.
When you trap a river, do you normally walk it or do you float it?
Most of the time guys are going to float because beaver, being a big animal, take big equipment.
Sure.
You can snare them, but for drowning them, killing them in a conibear takes big conibear. So you got a lot of weight you're dealing with. So a boat is the most economical, feasible way to move up and down the river if it's navigable.
Have you ever had the experience where you get in the river, you're excited to set some traps, and everyone else has already got the river set up? Or are you pretty much always able to find a
Usually
set?
You can. I've mainly trapped on private ground, so you kind of got an idea. But I did go down on a creek one time. Some people were having trouble with a beaver girdling some of their trees, and we walked down, and I go, have you given anybody else permission to be down here? Oh, no, you're the only one. And because I could see out in the water a beaver floating underwater. And I reached down and grabbed a wire and pulled it up, and I go, well, here was your problem, but somebody's already been here. Well, that trap had a number on it, and I was able to find it, call the guy up, and said, hey, are you trapping down here? Oh, yeah, I live just down. And I said, well, I found your trap and your beaver. I'm going to bring it to you. And he's like, really? You do that? And I go, yeah, I'm coming right now. And so I took it to him, and he couldn't believe it. So he was an older man at the time, and so from a different era when those things were valuable.
You probably would have stolen it is what he was
well,
thinking.
that was kind of the implication I got from the way he acted. Was
which
like,
makes
I
you
couldn't
wonder what
believe
he
you
would have done.
Yeah, I couldn't believe you were bringing that to me. So maybe he thought I was an idiot. I don't know, but I gave it back to him.
Wow. Huh. And he wasn't even trapping it with permission.
No, he was down there trespassing.
Yeah.
So.
Man, it's such an interest for me, because like with hunting, we have like this idea where first truck at the trailhead, or if it's like a smaller area, first truck at the gate.
Yeah.
You move on. But the thing is, like, you can go back the next day and they might not be there anymore.
Right,
But
sure.
with trapping, to me it feels a lot more territorial.
Yeah.
And you keep saying when fur prices are high, it's really territorial.
Right.
But even like now when fur prices aren't crazy, is there certain ranges and territories that, like, when it comes to public land trapping, that, you know, like guys are like, well, I trap here.
Right.
I don't really trap over there because I know this guy traps over there. Is there anything
Sure,
like that?
sure, that happens, you
'Cause
know.
that's how it is with the houndsmen.
Yeah, right. They do run certain areas.
Yeah.
There's areas in Eastern Oregon right now. Bobcats historically have always been the high dollar item. It's a real luxury item for, you know, coats and scarves and jackets and stuff. And so the really good bobcats are still bringing good money. Now you're only allowed 5, so that there is a limit there. But you know, it's not uncommon to see $800, $1,200 bobcats. Woo. So those areas are very tightly protected and
not talked about.
And
Yeah. Do you have any
they
of those
don't want
spots?
anybody to see them driving into those areas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they might do it at night or something, you know. But a lot of that there again is maybe more back on private ranches and stuff too.
Got it.
So that's protected for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like anything. There's other people that enjoy it just as much as you.
Sure.
And so it's a public resource most of the time.
Yeah.
And we have to just cope with it. Public being out there with other guys pursuing that same as you.
And you, though, mostly trap and have trapped on private land, it sounds like.
Here in the valley, yes, but over east, I do trap over towards Jordan Valley, out on BLM land over there. Run maybe 60 to 100-mile loops out there for coyotes, and then later in the season for bobcats.
Yeah. What's the learning curve? If someone, you know, goes through all these channels and figures out and get their trap out, how long does it usually take before you're really getting stuff?
Well, I mean, it depends upon the person, you know, your outdoor experience, your desire, your fire inside you. It definitely takes work, especially if you go and put that fur up. So not only do you have to catch it, but then you have to take it home and kind of clean it up some, and then you got to skin it and flesh it and stretch it. So a lot of times what I'll do, I don't have time to do it all. I will skin it and freeze it.
Oh, okay.
And then take it out later to actually put it up.
And when you freeze a hide, you don't want the skin touching the fur, right?
Yeah,
wanna
you roll it up so that the fur, or the hair, the leather's on the inside, the flesh is on the inside, so that it doesn't get freezer burnt, doesn't dry out. But I usually don't have them in there that long, maybe just a few weeks before I get around to take them out.
I have a deer hide from 2021 in my freezer right now.
Yeah. The worst thing is they'll dry out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, at this point,
they'll freezer burn. And
I don't even know why I kept it, but yeah. If you're willing to really put in the effort and learn and try and study, and you have that woodsmanship, then the first year you can expect to be trapping.
Oh yeah, you can go out and catch some stuff right off the bat. You know, it depends upon the area and the number of, you know, animals in that area. But you know, one year I went out and caught 997 nutria.
Woo!
So it's
997.
Yeah, but
you almost got 1,000. But
well,
that's
people ask me why I didn't catch 1,000, and I was so sick of them 997. I didn't want to see another stinking nutria.
That's a lot of furs to deal with.
It was. I'd catch 30, 40 a day.
And you're fleshing them yourself?
Yeah, and I'd skin them and flesh them and then freeze them and then take them out and put them up.
What year was that?
Oh, that was probably 25 years ago. Yeah, they were worth about $8 a piece then.
Wow.
So
good for you.
Yeah, that was
cool.
Back when I was younger, for sure.
So then
a couple of years, you know, you can. It's like anything. The more time you put into it, the more time you're out there.
Yeah.
The longer you do it, it's just a learning curve, like everything.
Yeah.
It isn't any harder. There's no big secrets. It's just your determination and your desire to improve and to produce.
Yeah. To me, looking at going into trapping, it seems like the most intimidating part would honestly be dealing with the hides, because you said there's very specific shapes and ways to treat the different hides. And so is that all a part of your OTA class? Do you guys talk about dealing with hides?
We do a skinning demonstration and talk about it. Yes, it is a big part. You know, the trapping, it is the fun, the enjoyment. It's like Christmas every day. You go out and it's always the next trap. What do I got in the next trap? But then you have to deal with that animal. and utilize it the best way you can and the most that you can. So then you have another whole process there of knowledge required to proficiently put that fur up, to make it a valuable fur, to utilize it to its full potential.
To learn all that information, is it on the internet these days, or is it best to like an experienced trapper spend a year with them?
Well, it's really good to come to our fur sales or go to any kind of, Idaho puts on some fur sales, Nevada, Montana, and go and see fur. See how people put it up. Call somebody, something, before you ruin it or make it so it's not valuable. But that's where the fur sales really come to shine, is you can see so many different animals and so many different ways that people do it, but yet similar.
And they're probably happy to talk about how to do it.
Oh, yeah. Trappers are like anybody. They want to tell you how great they are and how many they caught and,
Yeah, because I mean, really, hearing all this, it seems like that would be one of the most important things to learn that might be forgotten.
Yes.
Is what do you do with the hide?
Right.
After?
That's one step.
Yeah.
That is also in your education. That's very necessary.
Do you recommend, are there any handbooks you're aware of or any resources like that?
Oh, there's all kinds of videos out there strictly on fur handling of specific animals, how to do it. So, yeah, I mean, that's a great thing about today in trapping world. Is it's not a secret. It's not held to the family knowledge and not passed on to anybody, Sure. Now it's out there in video and on the internet and on YouTube, and just there's no limit of what you can learn now.
So if you're the kind of person who listens to podcasts, then you can probably figure out how to type in YouTube.
You're already there. If you've already
how to handle this hide or that.
Or you're going to be looking it up this afternoon. So
Great. Well, I think that's a lot of really helpful information for anyone who's interested in trapping and doesn't really have any experience. Real quick, do you have a big tip or a lesson that you learned as an experienced trapper that maybe after someone started and they're a few years into it and they want to get more serious about it, a tip for them?
I got to go back to education. The more you can learn, there's no big secrets. There's no, shiny star under a rock. There's no secret formula of a lure or a bait. It's all kind of flows together, and your eyes are opened as you do it. It's a hands-on. Yes, you can look on the internet and you can read books, but until you actually get out there and start doing it yourself and get your hands dirty and put in the time and effort, that's when you're going to really take it to heart and see what it will do to the inside of your soul.
So essentially, always keep striving and being involved in the trapping community, it sounds like.
Please, by all means, we need, it isn't so much your donation to membership. It isn't the dollars. Yes, we utilize them the best we can, but it's having you personally, a person, that, because it's sad to say, but when we go into a hearing or a group that we're working with, they'll say, well, how many members you have? Well, you don't want to say, well, I got 11 members in our group. So, if you can say you got 600 or 1,000 or, then they're like, oh, okay, around the state. So being involved is very important, whether you're Oregon Hunters Association or the Houndsmen or the Trappers or the Steelheaders, get involved. If that's what you love and that's what you got to be involved. You got to be part of an organization and help out.
Yeah, which is so honestly backwards from what hunting is in a big way, is being alone.
Right.
And so
getting away from everybody.
Yeah.
And here we're telling you to be involved. If you're not being involved, you're not supporting that. And you're not an asset. You're a liability.
Yeah.
So you need whatever you love, whatever you're doing out there in the outdoor world. If you're a downhill cross-country skier or, a snowboarder, something, support your group. Be involved, because everybody needs more people in their association.
Yeah. And with you now, your role as the OTA president, Oregon Trappers Association president, how long have you been in that role?
Way too long, if you ask me. I took over it probably 12 years ago, maybe. Okay. But I loved it from the start. The first fur check I received, it was a thing I got into where I actually got paid paid to do it. Everything else, I had to pay to do it.
Yeah.
But here at the end of the year, I got a check.
Yeah, for furs.
And I bought more stuff, more trapping stuff. But still, it was a unique experience to see, evolve from everything I'd done, fishing and hunting and scuba diving and off-road racing and all these crazy things I did.
Yeah.
All at once here, I had all this fun. I was out in the woods. I saw, I'll go fishing for steelhead while I'm checking my traps. Or I was deer hunting, but I was checking traps.
Yeah.
And then after all of that, I get a fur check. I'm like, holy cow, this is a great thing. So, it has progressed. And some years I don't do very much. I'm busy plumbing. Plumbing still pays a little better than trapping. But, I get $1 million worth of enjoyment out of it, no matter what I do, whether it's with the grandsons or out in the desert by myself, 40 miles from the nearest house.
Were you involved with the OTA before you were the president?
Oh, yes. I was a board member and, involved in the fur sales through OTC. And I've always been the type of guy that steps up, I guess. It's just the way the Lord made me to step up and take responsibility. So he prepared me that way. And so I trust him to use me in those situations and give me wisdom and courage.
It's really interesting to me to think of everything we're talking about right now, how trappers are the first people that get attacked with legislation and with bans and all that stuff, in the hunting world.
Yeah.
And that it's by nature a solitary thing that we do it to be alone. But then now there's this call to action to join the club, in the sense of, band together to protect what we love to do. And to me, that seems like a big tension, where trappers, when prices were high, were super territorial and wanted to be alone. But now it's like you need to band together. Yeah. Have you noticed a big shift in trapping culture with that?
Oh, yes. The old guys, not that I'm not one of them, right? But the older guys, they were not involved. They would come in and sell their fur and be gone. They were loners out there and not sharing any of their knowledge or any of their information. Yeah. And you cannot do that anymore. This society now will not allow that. You have to be involved. You have to be part of something to help out, to support. There's too much need for that person in an organization that we need that body. We need that knowledge. We need that variety of experiences to help and keep that association, whatever it is, whatever. Trappers, hunters, fishermen, houndsmen, everybody. We all got to work together. We got to be combined a coalition of groups and people together to be able to survive. This is survival.
Take that as a call to action. Man.
Please do.
That is...
Get a hold of somebody, anymore. Everybody's available on the internet or... so contact somebody that you know and get involved, please.
Yeah. And you can still experience your days out in the woods alone.
It will not take away from that at all.
You and God and nature, but if you want the next generations to be able to participate in it, we need to band together. And
trappers, houndsmen, and trappers are kind of the small number. We're the bottom of the food chain here. Yeah. And so they are easy for the antis to jump on us to eliminate us. That's not their goal.
Plus, it's really easy to make the public hate houndsmen and trappers.
It's all controversial. So, but that's not their goal. Their goal isn't to stop trapping or stop houndsmen. It's to stop all usage, all hunting, all fishing. So just because you don't trap doesn't mean you can't support the whole association, the whole group, the whole body of this that we're trying to put together to protect all of our rights and ability to be out there.
Does OTA work with groups like Oregon Hunters Association and different...
We do. Yeah. Very closely with them all the time.
Yeah.
Amy Patrick from the Oregon Hunters Association is very active with us.
And she's the policy leader, right?
She is their lobbyist.
Okay.
I know we have a Stan Steele, who is in our organization, is very active in fish and wildlife and water councils, and he's a tremendous asset to us, and we just couldn't survive without people like him. Other people around the state, too, that are very active and knowledgeable. Yeah. So it takes a tremendous association, a group a coalition. That's the whole key word right there, is coalition of people and groups to be able to function anymore in this society.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your guys' fighting and for what you're doing to keep it all together, keep it happening.
Yeah, we will keep fighting until the last chance we get. Oregon is the last state here on the left coast that still has trapping available. Washington has a little cage trapping that they can do. California has no trapping at all.
I didn't realize Washington didn't have trapping.
Washington has no conibears, no snares, no footholds. All they have is cage. So the antis are unceasingly against us and trying to eliminate us just so it makes them look better. You know, we're kind of a black eye to them right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, today we can trap. So I'll live with that.
That's wild. I didn't realize Washington. So we're sandwiched right there.
We are. This left coast just needs to slide into the ocean and be gone. We'd help the rest of the nation.
Then there'd be a new left coast, though.
Yep. Start all over again, probably.
Yeah, that answers all my questions about OTA. So let's go ahead and bring this in for a landing and talk about the most important subject of the show, and that is your spiritual connection to your life in the outdoors.
Yeah.
I mean, you've spent a life hunting every big game animal in North America, trapping, waterfowl hunting, fishing, and still to this day, after all these decades of getting dirt under your fingernails, you love hunting.
Oh, yeah.
What drives your connection to the outdoor lifestyle?
I don't think anybody that spends hardly any time at all out in the woods can't see the majesty and the variety and the wisdom that went into all of these animals and birds and insects and plant life. I mean, there's just no end to it when you're out there and your eyes are open and you're seeing these things to think, you know, my Lord, what did you create here? What mind did this? You know, you got an animal and look at how his organs are and how he lives out there. You see a bird fly, you see a tree grow, you see a bug crawl, and it's just amazing the variety and how they all work together. And it's like, thank you, Lord. You know, you were thinking about this and me when you created it.
Yeah.
So it's been, you know, the more time you're out in the woods, when I was back in the wilderness, sitting back there on the ridges, seeing the river run by and the trees wind go by and the clouds go by and the animals all around, it's, you know, everybody uses this kind of loosely, but, you know, spiritual time to get away and be with the Lord and quiet and just really enjoy all that He has created on this planet for us.
Yeah. Did you grow up in the church?
I did. Fortunately, I'm very blessed. My parents were very active in the church. I've gone to church my whole life. Yeah. Now, you know, when I was younger, as a teenager, you know, I didn't take it too seriously. I never really strayed away. The Lord was very protective of me. I can look back and say, holy smokes, Lord, you were busy, you know. you had extra number of angels working for me. I can remember one time chucker hunting on the Deschutes River, way up high. I would always take the highest, roughest area to go across. And I was walking along some steep bluffs and had my belly up against the bluffs, and my buddy was right below me. And I lost my balance and tipped out.
Wow.
And all at once, it was just like a hand just pushed me right up against that bluff. And him standing down below, he goes, how did you do that? And I go, I didn't.
Wow.
And I can still feel that hand on my back. So it's the Lord has been very good. He's protected me and given me so many experiences. I almost at the time think back and go, Lord, is this you doing this for me? Or is it Satan keeping me away from you? It's very close. I had to really think about it, pray about it, meditate on it to make sure that I wasn't taken away from the Lord, because it was very easy to be gone all weekend. And I was successful. Whether it was me or the Lord or what, but I wanted to make sure that it wasn't taking away from the Lord. So, and it did for a while. I spent way too much time out in the woods. And even though I enjoyed it and saw the Lord's creation, I kind of had to rein myself in because it would be easy to step away. And step into the woods. So fortunately, the Lord give me wisdom and protection over that too.
So with finding that balance is the word I'd use for what you're
Yes,
describing.
definitely.
Is that something that can be explained, or is you just self-discovery something we have to learn?
Yeah, I think everybody's different, and the amount of time, your desire to be out there, to experience it, to be in the woods, on the water, on the lake, it varies with each person. Your ability, your physical ability, your mental power, your mental ability, because a lot of it is mental.
Yeah.
To survive, I've been in a couple instances where, I don't know. I look back on them and I'm going, Lord, that was pretty close,
Yeah.
So, but I do have that. I do have the Lord to look back on and go, thank you, Lord. It wasn't by me. It was by you.
Yeah. Could you maybe explain a little bit how you recognize at a time in your life when your outdoor pursuits was pulling you away? How was it pulling you away? Was it just because you couldn't go to church on Sunday?
Right.
Or?
Yeah. I was just spending Sundays away. I was spending, I don't know, I never really counted up how many days I was out, but, it was 100, 200 days a year,
Wow.
weekends away.
Wow.
I'd get up at 4 a.m. and go check traps till noon, and then get off from work and go check traps some more and finish skinning at 2 a.m. and get up at 4.
Man.
And I did that for, a month at a time.
Yeah.
And just that desire to do it. And like I say, fortunately had the wife helping, taking care of the kids, because they were small at the time.
Wow.
When I was doing that. So, and I had a boss, I had a daddy
Yep.
that would, allow me to do that, give me that freedom to do that. But at the same time, yes, I kind of maybe stepped up to the edge and looked over the hill, but the Lord kept me from sliding down that hill. He pulled me back.
Do you feel like that was maybe a little selfish time? Like you were putting that before your family and God?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it costs them for me to do that. There's a cost involved in anything. So you have to be aware and see that. Now, maybe you don't see it right away. Yeah. And hopefully before it causes too much damage, you would see it, because I could have done a lot of things that would have, took full time away from, so I am very pleased that I didn't. Looking back, I say me, but it was not me. It was the Lord guiding me. It was the Holy Spirit working through me and, slapping me upside the head and saying, Doug, no, don't do that. So it was really great times. I have a lot of great memories. I have a lot of knowledge, way too much knowledge for what I should have. And I hope I can use it, correctly.
Yeah. Before you found the balance and God gave you the wisdom on how to live very, very full life in the outdoors, but still be vitally connected to Him and to provide for your family. There's a lot of guys listening to this who, believe in a God, or believe in God, might even call themselves Christian because, they grew up in America and so they're Christians. I've met a lot of people who that's how they describe it. How would you explain to them or encourage them the value of being plugged into the church?
Well, I think if nothing else, it gives you a rock. It gives you an anchor. It gives you strength from within, because the Lord is with you. You are being guided and directed. You can see so many things as you live. You can look back on your life. Maybe at the time you don't realize it, but it doesn't take much experience in life to go, that was beyond me. That was not my ability. That was the Lord. So all those little things add up, and hopefully you will put the pieces of the puzzle together. And see it early. I was a little slow learner. I'm a little thick-headed. I admit it. But at the same time, I think the more you get into the Word, the more time you spend with the Lord, the more time you spend in prayer, the more He will open up to you. You have to search for Him. It's like deer hunting in the woods. They don't come to you. You got to go look for them. So you got to spend time in the Word and in prayer, and that door will be open to you.
And I'll add on to that, working in ministry, I obviously am fully bought into the value of being plugged into the church, and it makes me think of when you go duck hunting. and you got a whole flock of birds swirling, coming down, right? And you got your gun. It's really hard to pick out one bird.
Mm-hmm.
But then when one kind of separates from the group and you lock in on that bird, like that's the one you're going to shoot. That's the one that's going to die because it didn't stay with the group. It didn't stay protected in the
body, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I see that too a lot with people. Whether you already have, most of us already have gone through very hard things in life. If you haven't yet, you are going to experience hardship in life.
Yes,
and when
that's
you
life.
are a part of the pack, when you're a part of the flock and you are pursuing God with them, they can encourage you,
Mm-hmm.
they can support you, they can pray for you.
Definitely.
God can reveal things to you through them.
Oh, yes.
And that's very, very important.
Yeah.
And so my encouragement for anyone who's maybe been forsaking going to church, maybe because it's a day away from hunting,
Right.
or
Yeah.
maybe just because it hasn't ever been a part of your life.
Right.
You know, don't be like the duck that gets separated from the flock and gets blasted, because as soon as the hardship comes, that's what's going to happen
Right.
in your relationship with God. It's not something that we were ever designed to do alone. Even if you read from the Old Testament all the way to the New Testament with how Jesus brought us salvation, as much as it's individual, it's communal.
Yeah.
And our atonement is experienced as a group. And all of that just plays into the point that, you know, I've seen it a lot. I've felt it a little bit, the desire to just, you know, I can have a relationship with God. I don't need all these other people.
Yeah. Yeah. You see that so often, and I hear that too. And yes, you can have a relationship outside the church and with outside other people, but you will not have that support that you need when hard times come.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find that balance between family and church and hunting. But at the same time, I can look back and see that the Lord has blessed me when I've been faithful to Him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe I don't get to go out and kill doll sheep every weekend, but, you know, I can go out and shoot a duck, or I can, you know, I can go out and catch a raccoon that's killing somebody's chickens.
Yeah.
And things change as you get older. Your perspective changes. That blood fest in your body changes. That desire that, a lot of us have mellows out. You get some wisdom. You get some knowledge, and you can still enjoy what you're doing. It's just at a different level. Your body won't let you do what you used to do. And it's hard to accept sometimes, but the Lord will bless you, and He will hold and comfort and give you wisdom and guidance if you look for it.
So you won't always have what you have now.
No.
You're speaking to the guys like me, the young-blooded, hot-headed people who just want to get after it and go kill some elk.
Been there, done that, you know, and not that I don't care to do it now, you know, but it takes more effort, takes more energy now.
Yeah.
It's harder. I'm 68 years old. So I can't hit it as hard as I used to, but it doesn't mean it means anything less to me.
Yeah.
And so but now I have wisdom. I can look from it at a different perspective, and I go, hey, you know, the weather isn't quite right, or, you know, next week will be better, you know, and instead of going every weekend and hit it, and go, I can go, I'm going to back off, and, you know, snow's too high right now. I can't get up there. I'm going to wait a week until, you know, and, you know, the river's too high, and I don't want to go set traps, or I don't want to fish. It's a little murky. I'll wait. And so that knowledge has been earned, and the Lord has used that to help me. So, it's an ongoing, daily, relentless pursuit of excellence, I guess.
And that's an interesting perspective that doesn't really get a lot of airtime in hunting media nowadays, because it's really popular, like the whole idea of exercise, work out really hard so you can spend as much time as possible in the woods for as long as you can. And that there's an admirable side of that.
Yeah.
You know, taking care of yourself and being longevity, being able to do harder things later in life. But no matter what, even if you postpone it by a decade, you're going to hit a time in your life where you can no longer depend on that. And so you got to ask, where are you going to be?
And I've hunted with those people, and I know those people, and I look up to some of those people, but at the same time, it all comes to an end at some point.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have an injury.
You're delaying the inevitable.
Enjoy it at the time. If you can do it now, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Remember it. You know, take pictures of it, write it down.
Yeah.
Because someday that will just be a memory.
Wow. And when the things of our lives are stripped away, we have nowhere else to turn but where?
Just to the Lord.
Yep.
That's our rock. That's our base. So he allows us, he enables us, he gives us the opportunity to do this. But at the same time, it's all his. It's not ours.
Yeah.
Everything we have is his and given to us to use. So we need to be good stewards. But first on all, we need to honor and glorify the Lord.
Yeah. Pursue physical health, exercise, work hard, do what you can to stay out there, but don't forget the more important, the eternal, the lifelong side of that, which is a spiritual health.
Now, not to say you can't take that with you. I've carried a Bible with me in my backpack. I've sat under a tree out on a ridge 10 miles from the nearest anything and enjoyed reading the Bible and being out there. Great. More power to you.
Yeah.
But keep it in perspective. 50 years from now, that big bull you killed, if you got him on the wall, it will only be a memory. But if you don't get him, if you don't get to bring that big bull home, you're still going to come home.
Yeah.
You're still going to have a family and a life. And yes, you're going to have a little regret. You're going to have some pain in your heart. You're going to have a memory no matter what. So bring that home, the time, the effort, the people, the place, and thank the Lord for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And whether you have that hanging on the wall or not, there's a lot you can still bring home.
Yeah. Well, Doug, hearing you say all that stuff, it really is clear how your relationship with God is just adamant and visible through your connection to the outdoors. Is there any other thing you want to say, any more encouragement you want to give before we wrap this up?
No, I think we better wrap it up. It's been going a while. So, I could go on and on. I do have apparently a flair for speech, and I can carry on a pretty good conversation, whether I'm saying anything coherent or not.
Oh, I've loved it. I think it's been great.
So I appreciate the time. I'm glad we finally got to do this. It was a lot nicer than I thought, a lot more enjoyable.
Good.
And I hope I don't come across too arrogant or too condescending,
I don't think so.
But there's a lot of great things to be out there and be involved in. There's just no end to the opportunities and the experiences, but keep it in perspective to your family and your God, and you will be benefited by it in life.
All right. I love it. Thank you for your time,
You bet.
Doug. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your wisdom.
Okay.
And we'll see you at church.
We sure will. Bye now. It was a lot nicer than I thought, a lot more enjoyable.